Hi, Jonathan York from Bay Financial Partners, looking at the investment markets. I'm still pretty nervous out there for equity markets. Looking at it, growth seems to be sort of okay in the US. Obviously, the rest of the global growth situation is still a little bit on a sort of knife edge. Certainly China is slowing down, but appears to be sort of bottoming around that sort of 6.5 level. Europe, interestingly, is showing a little bit of sort of recovery going through out there as you head into this sort of summer periods now in the Northern Hemisphere. Obviously still pretty big issue as to when the US will look to increase rates further this year, if at all indeed. Still looking like they will do, because if you look at it, as say the economy in the US is growing at a pretty good rate. You've got unemployment below 5%. You've still got reasonable growth going forward, and it's just going to be interesting now to see when Janet Yellen and the Fed look to pull the trigger. Certainly, it does seem to be a little bit of a dichotomy out there, with the market looking for little or sort of one rate increase. Fed's still talking about the possibility of two rate increases going through this year. So it'd just be very interesting to see how that all sort of plays out. Obviously, the big driver behind the low interest rates has been this benign inflation outlook. But it's quite interesting now if you start to look at oil. Back in January it was trading sort of mid-20s. Currently trading, so high 40s now, sort of 48, 49 bucks a barrel. And it'll be very interesting as well to see how that sort of pans through now for the rest of the year. Certainly there was talk about that sort of supply-demand imbalance being sort of redressed by sort of third quarter this year. That may be happening a little bit sooner than anticipated. Certainly if that is the case and you start to see a little bit of inflation sort of creeping through, then it would appear that certainly the markets are a little bit behind the eight ball, certainly in the US, and potentially you could see at least a couple of rate increases going through in the US. Here in New Zealand, a little bit of respite for the farmers overnight. Dairy auctions were up around 3%, which is obviously encouraging news. But really, we need to see a few more of those going through before we start to get too excited. A couple of sort of issues and potential issues in the marketplace. You've got the IAG looking for a fresh issue. Also, potentially, there's an Infratel bond coming through that will be looking to replace some of the bonds that come up for maturity in June. Now, as always, it's interesting to note the sort of reinvestment rates on these issues coming through. When initially when bonds were issued, so maybe sort of 5 years ago, you were looking maybe sort of 7.5, maybe even 8%. Now you're looking at around sort of half that level, maybe a little bit more. But it's going to be quite interesting to see the sort of uptake on that from the public. Also, as well, remember as we head towards end of June, make sure those KiwiSaver contributions are up to date, and especially if you haven't yet contributed enough to get the maximum tax credit, then maybe you just want to call us and just see what you need to do on that, because certainly if you can get the maximum contribution through to get the tax credit, it's certainly worthwhile. Now, if you're interested in looking at sort of income options, call us on 0800 867 323, or go to the website www.bayfinancialpartners.co.nz for lots of interesting articles. I look forward to speaking to you soon.